Just as the early summer morning unfolds, nestled between a lush green forest, pristine rivers, and rolling hills, Sarnai and her younger sister Elmira return from gathering berries in the woods. As they near the camp, they spot riders on its edge and both rush toward the scene, eager to discover the cause of this visit. Encountering visitors always stirs a mix of curiosity and unease within the clan. Coming from behind a yurt, Sarnai quickly finds Kutlug and grabs his hand, while Elmira takes refuge behind her sister. They observe 8 young men on horseback at the camp's perimeter, fully equipped for hunting with bows, spears, and axes. Their heavy fur clothing, excessive for the mild weather, showcases their readiness and skills. Another man approaches the clan elders on foot, bearing a tribute as tradition dictates. The riders maintain a stoic, cold demeanor, their observant gazes fixed as their horses exhibit hints of recklessness. Sarnai murmurs to Kutlug, "Who are they? What do they want?" Kutlug, tilting his head slightly while tightening his grip on Sarnai's hand reassuringly, responds, "I think they are from the Ashina clan. They are probably here to ask for permission to hunt on our land." Sarnai ponders silently. Our land? These lands belong to no one, yet since our tribe settled here a few months ago, they are ours for now. The leader of the horsemen presents furs to the Chulim elder, who also serves as the clan chief. The gift is warmly accepted, and as expected, the visitors are invited to join the tribe for lunch. The leader gestures to his companions, prompting them to dismount and allow their horses to graze freely on the plain. The 9 visitors settle in the center of the camp around a small fire, while additional wood is added in anticipation of the upcoming meal. Sarnai and Elmira respectfully excuse themselves to assist their mother in preparing the food, while Kutlug is tasked with gathering more wood. During the meal, men and elderly women alike gather in a circle with the visitors. The women graciously serve meat, vegetables, and a modest amount of birch wine to all present. Sarnai, in particular, takes special care of Kutlug, though he cannot help but feel uneasy as he notices the lingering gazes of the guests upon her. Even Sarnai herself seems aware of the attention, as she catches the men stealing glances at her from the corners of their eyes. At the age of 17, Sarnai's beauty is undeniable, a trait recognized by everyone in the tribe. Though she is only a year older than Kutlug, everyone in their small clan of 28 people sees their union as inevitable. Growing up together, they share a bond as close as that of siblings. However, Kutlug's feelings for Sarnai have deepened, drawn to her long, silky, dark hazel hair, bronzed skin, captivating almond-shaped eyes, and her graceful figure. It is unclear whether Sarnai reciprocates these romantic feelings fully, but on several occasions she has given Kutlug small kisses on the lips as a token of gratitude, reminiscent of their childhood affection. They enjoy taking intimate walks together, hand in hand, while Sarnai shares her dreams of distant lands and fantastical adventures in giant villages beside endless lakes. To Kutlug, Sarnai is a perennial dreamer, always ready to spin epic tales for her sister and him. Sometimes when bathing in the river, Sarnai lets her guard down slightly, allowing Kutlug a brief glimpse while he ensures no one else disturbs her private moment. Sarnai constantly occupies Kutlug's thoughts. He is also aware that to win Sarnai's favor, he must enhance his abilities as a provider and hunter, and perhaps even acquire 1 or 2 horses. What bothers Kutlug most is their identical height. Sharing the same stature as Sarnai weighs heavily on him. He harbors hope that he will soon grow taller than her, encouraged by the fact that just 2 years ago he was significantly shorter. The visitors captivate the village with their hunting tales, showcasing their courage and prowess as riders and weapons handlers. They boast about the number of horses, reindeer, and other animals they possess, suggesting that for the Ashinas, hunting is more of a sport than a necessity. As they share their stories, Kutlug secretly envies their lifestyle and achievements. Without delay, the Ashinas leave the camp, much to Kutlug's relief. Walking past the yurt of the elder, Kutlug notices the gifts left to dry on sticks. As he caresses the skins, he realizes one is bear skin, a gift of significant value. Reflecting on the events of the day at night, Kutlug resolves to prove he is as skilled as any Ashina. Unconsciously, he needs this boost to his ego to feel better about himself and to dissipate the growing anger within him. The next morning, rising early, Kutlug takes his bow and arrows and stealthily approaches Sarnai's family yurt. Quietly digging a hole under the stretched skin, he calls for Sarnai to wake up. "What are you doing?" Sarnai asks inquisitively, her voice low to avoid waking anyone. "How about we go bow fishing for the day, just you and I?" Kutlug suggests. "What's gotten into you? Why are you doing this?" she adds in a hushed tone. "I just want to spend time with you, just the two of us, like it used to be without Elmira in tow," Kutlug replies. Glancing at her sleeping family, Sarnai says, "Wait for me, I'm coming." Kutlug and Sarnai, hand in hand, run stealthily towards the forest's edge, stopping to catch their breath. This moment, reminiscent of their youth, makes them both giggle. They arrive at a part of the river further from their usual spot to ensure privacy. Surveying the shallow, clear water, Kutlug declares it perfect for their purpose. Sarnai sits on the grass, watching as Kutlug confidently positions himself on a boulder, aiming for his first target. The river is teeming with prey at this time of year. Spotting a perch, Kutlug shoots his arrow into the water, followed by the tether it's attached to. The arrow drifts away with the stream, signaling a miss. Sarnai chuckles at Kutlug's misfortune, but undeterred and confident in his skills, Kutlug smiles at her before reloading for another shot. It takes 5 tries before the arrow fails to resurface and the tether shakes, indicating a likely hit. Kutlug pulls out a decent-sized perch, proudly displaying his catch to a clapping Sarnai. The young couple spends the morning fishing and reminiscing about past gossips from their small world. At one point, Sarnai is startled by an unusual noise coming from behind her in the forest, but turning around, she sees nothing out of the ordinary. Before the sun reaches its zenith, Kutlug manages to lay 5 perches on the grass beside Sarnai as trophies. They are now both seated on the riverbank, basking in the sunlight. With their eyes closed and enveloped in tranquility, only the gentle trickling of the water serves as a backdrop. Kutlug reaches out to take Sarnai's hand, and she willingly intertwines her fingers with his. After a moment, Kutlug drapes an arm around Sarnai's shoulders in a gentle embrace, allowing her to lean her head against his shoulder as they admire the pristine wilderness of Siberia. Crossing the forest in silence, moving at a slow pace with a palpable tension hanging over them. As they walk through a denser part of the forest with thick foliage enveloping them, they unexpectedly encounter 4 of the horsemen they had seen the day before. Kutlug's initial thought is that the men are lost, but Sarnai instantly understands the gravity of the situation. "What are you still doing here?" Kutlug asks, confusion evident in his voice. The only response he receives is a sudden, sharp impact to his head, the world tilting violently as he collapses toward the forest floor, darkness swiftly overtaking his consciousness. Kutlug opens his eyes to find himself in his parents' yurt. His first thought is of Sarnai and his planned bow-fishing trip with her. As he attempts to rise, a searing pain engulfs his head, forcing him back onto the soft furs beneath him. Why is it still nighttime, he wonders. His mother, noticing his stirrings, rushes over and sits beside him. She pats his forehead with a smile that betrays her worry and asks, "How are you, my son?" Feeling his body completely numb and his grasp on reality slipping, as if reality itself is blending with dreams, he murmurs, "What is happening to me? I don't feel good," while his eyes dart around. He tries to reach for his mother's arm, but his body fails him, and he succumbs to an overwhelming fatigue, collapsing once more. When Kutlug awakens again, the day has fully broken, and the old shaman woman is by his side, chanting spells in a trance. Sensing Kutlug's awareness, she brings a cup of cold herbal tea to his lips. "Drink, dear child. You have wandered the land of spirits for too long. Your body is weak. Drink." After he drinks, the memory of the attack floods back, and he asks, "Where is Sarnai? I need to see her." "Do not worry about Sarnai right now," the shaman advises gently. "Focus on regaining your strength. I will fetch your parents for you." Sarnai is on a horse with a man, crossing a vast plain. Her hands are tightly bound, and she struggles to free herself. The man behind her says, "Stop struggling. You won't be able to undo these bindings." "Who are you, and what do you want from me? Take me back to my clan," she demands. "My name is Prince Tuwu, son of Axion, Khan of the Ashina tribe, feared by all, and soon you will be my wife," he declares, lifting a strand of her hair to his nose with a sense of superiority. Angered by his arrogance, Sarnai struggles more vigorously and tries to elbow him in the ribs. "Stop that, woman. You will only hurt yourself," Tuwu warns, pushing her head toward the horse's neck to calm her. The man riding behind them laughs, remarking, "This one is a wild one. Do you think I will just submit to your whims?" Sarnai snaps back angrily, her face rubbing against the horse's skin. "I am now your lord," Tuwu declares, "and you will obey me. If you don't behave, you will walk behind my horse all the way to our village. I warn you, it's a long way," he threatens, then releases her head. In response, Sarnai wipes her face with her sleeve, trying to rid herself of the horse's stench, her face twisted in disgust and anger. Later, on the surface, Sarnai appears calm and resigned to her situation. Internally, however, she is vigilant, calculating, and evaluating her options. As they approach what appears to be a dense forest where the horses would struggle to follow, Sarnai waits for the right moment. Just close enough, she suddenly pulls the horse's reins, causing it to rear up, unseating both herself and Tuwu onto the thick grass. Once on the ground, she quickly gets to her feet and dashes towards the forest. With her hands bound, her pace is hindered, and she cannot run as swiftly as she normally would. A vigilant horseman quickly catches up, blocking her path, and before she can turn, she finds herself surrounded by two more horsemen. Tuwu pushes his way through the circling horses, his face contorted with anger. With a single forceful slap, he knocks Sarnai to the ground, her face pressing into the grass. Now Sarnai is being dragged behind Tuwu's horse, her hands tethered to the animal, forcing her to match its pace. Tuwu occasionally turns to look at her, which infuriates Sarnai. She despises the feeling of his gaze on her. The journey has been grueling for Sarnai. At nightfall, Tuwu offers her some dry meat. She barely has the strength to tear it with her teeth, followed by a slow, mechanical chewing motion. Sarnai spends the night with her hands bound to a tree. Although it's early summer, the night air is still chilly. Shivering, her face is intermittently illuminated by the soft glow of the campfire. Then Tuwu crouches beside her. As he extends his hand toward her face, she instinctively turns away. Sarnai feels his hand on her jaw. Bracing for the worst, she closes her eyes and tries to clear her mind. Then, unexpectedly, she feels a weight draped over her body, not what she anticipated. Peeking from the corner of her eye, she sees Tuwu covering her with the heavy bearskin he had been wearing, before he returns to his place by the fire with his companions in a deep silence. In the morning, Sarnai is brought before Tuwu, who stands beside his horse. The group is ready to depart, most already mounted. "So, what will it be today? Will you walk or will you join me?" Tuwu asks loudly. Sarnai looks away, feigning ignorance of the question. After a few seconds, Tuwu declares, "Very well, walking it is," and climbs onto his horse. The man holding Sarnai's tether attaches it to Tuwu's saddle. Once secured, Tuwu kicks his horse into motion, pulling Sarnai forward in a sudden, forceful movement that forces her to keep pace. Around noon, the group arrives at a shallow river they need to cross. Tuwu signals for everyone to stop and dismount. He orders the horses to be watered and for all water skins to be collected. "Fill them up," he instructs Sarnai, as a man drops all the water skins at her feet. The man drags Sarnai slightly upstream, while the other men and horses quench their thirst in the clear water. While the guard scans the perimeter a dozen feet away, Sarnai enters the fresh water up to the limit of her tether. She crouches in the foot-deep water and, glancing quickly at her captor, discreetly relieves herself with a mischievous grin, knowing the stream is flowing toward the group downstream. After quenching her thirst and examining her reflection in the water, Sarnai notices a bruise on her face from the previous day's altercation. She splashes fresh water on it, using this moment to also quickly clean herself up. As she empties and refills the water skins, Sarnai notices that the water has loosened her bonds. Stealthily, she unties the knot while pretending to still be bound. Standing up, Sarnai walks back to the bank, the water level at her ankles. With all the water skins collected from the bank, she approaches her guard with a grin and stops in front of him, flashing a smile. Mustering all her strength, Sarnai smashes the water skins into the man's face, causing him to fall headfirst into the shallow water. Now completely free, she dashes into the nearby woods, weaving between the sporadic trees. Running as fast as she can, she feels her heart racing from both her effort and her stress. She hears horses galloping toward her, but focuses solely on her escape. Suddenly, she is lifted by her collar, then dropped, causing her to lose balance and fall. Before she can stand, Tuwu, having already dismounted from his horse, pushes her back down with a gentle kick, pinning her to the ground with his weight on her body. His left hand forcefully grips Sarnai's throat, choking her. Sarnai tries to scratch Tuwu's face with her nails, but she can't reach. With his right hand, Tuwu draws his knife and presses it against Sarnai's collarbone, penetrating her clothing. "Now I offer you a new choice. Will you walk with a hole in your shoulder, or will you walk uninjured? The choice is yours," Tuwu says calmly. Sarnai, her face red from increased blood pressure, tries to loosen Tuwu's grip on her throat. As he eases his grip on her airway, Tuwu increases the pressure of the knife, making Sarnai wince in pain. Then he asks, "Will you behave?" Sarnai nods hastily in agreement. "If you ever try to escape again, I will be forced to damage you permanently," he warns, looking deeply into Sarnai's eyes, which are brimming with tears. "Do we understand each other?" Sarnai nods again, tears now streaming down her temples. Standing up and walking away, Tuwu notices that the tip of his knife is stained with blood. Wiping the blood between his index finger and thumb, he slowly spreads it across his 2 digits. Sheathing his knife while examining his fingers, he thinks to himself, "Her blood will serve a greater purpose." Sarnai, still holding her throat, coughs deeply and rolls onto her side to restore her airflow. "Bring her back to the river so she can clean herself up," Tuwu orders his men, who watched the entire interaction with incredulity from atop their horses. Back at the river, Sarnai cleans herself in shame, unfolding her cloth stained with specks of blood. She inspects her shoulder to find a half-inch stab wound. Under the watchful eyes of Tuwu's men standing on the bank, she tears a foot-long strip from her dress to clean her injury and uses it as a compress. Walking back to the bank, she deliberately extends her hands toward the man she struck, ready to be bound in submission once again. Kutlug's parents enter the yurt, their faces visibly relieved. Kutlug's first question concerns Sarnai's well-being. Skirting the issue, his mother explains that Kutlug had been missing for a day, found unconscious in the forest, and unresponsive for another day, causing them great worry. Kutlug presses again, more insistently, about Sarnai's whereabouts. With a tear forming, his mother admits they don't know her status and suspect she was taken. Rising from his bed, Kutlug stands but quickly becomes dizzy. His father catches him, but Kutlug, pushing his father's support aside, heads toward Sarnai's parents' yurt. There, he finds Sarnai's mother comforting Almira. They both look up as Kutlug enters. "I am sorry, so very sorry. I couldn't protect her. I have to find her. I must," he declares. As he leaves Sarnai's yurt, Kutlug's mother walks briskly beside him, urging him not to act hastily. However, her pleas fall on deaf ears. Entering the elder's yurt, Kutlug announces, "The Ashina took Sarnai. They only have a 2-day head start. Let's gather our hunters and horses. We can catch them." Sarnai's father, also present, counters angrily, "Then what? We fight? How many of us will die? We are a small tribe. We cannot afford more losses. Those Ashinas are seasoned hunters, likely warriors. We don't stand a chance. Do you think it doesn't pain me to say this? I still have one daughter to protect. I will not risk her. No one should." The 3 elders nod in agreement. "So that's it. We do nothing. Are those the values of the Chulams? To leave our own behind?" Kutlug challenges. An elder responds, "Protecting our tribe is the most important thing a Chulam can do. By doing nothing, that is exactly what we are doing. We must be grateful that the Ashinas did not kill you too, or pillage our clan. They got what they wanted, and now they've left for their land for good." The others nod in acknowledgement. Defeated, Kutlug says, "Very well then. I will go alone and bring her back." From behind him, his father's voice is firm. "You will not do such a thing. I forbid you." Sitting on the riverbank, Kutlug watches the dragonflies dance above the water. Almira sits beside him and murmurs, "Hey," her eyes also fixed on the flitting spectacle. "Hey," Kutlug replies. After a pause, Almira adds, "I guess it's just you and I now." A silence falls, and then Kutlug says, "Yes, it looks that way." He wraps his arm around Almira, saying nothing more as they continue to watch the river together. The group is slowly progressing through the pristine Siberian landscape, alternating between forests, prairies, and rivers. Sarnai is doing her best not to show weakness, despite stumbling increasingly while trying to keep up with the horses. One of Tuwu's men comes beside his lord and says, "My lord, I am sorry to interfere, but if we continue at this pace, we won't make it back to our Khan before many moons. Something must be done about the woman." "I know," Tuwu replies. "Return to your position." From his mount, Tuwu turns to look at Sarnai. Taking the tether, he pulls it to bring her beside his horse. "What is your name, woman?" he asks. Looking disdainfully at Tuwu, Sarnai finally relents. "I am Sarnai, daughter of Ulai and Zenaida." After a moment's pause, Tuwu inquires, "Are you married, Sarnai, daughter of Ulai and Zenaida?" "I am not," she responds. "It has been 3 days," Tuwu continues, "and since no one has challenged us, this means your clan has abandoned you. You are mine now. We are heading back to our village, to our Khan, who is your Khan from now on. You are slowing us down. It will take too long to get back. You will have to pick up the pace." "I am stronger than you think. I can make it," Sarnai replies. With that, Tuwu kicks his horse to a trot. He looks behind him to see Sarnai running, pulled arm's length by the tether. After a short while, Sarnai loses her balance and is dragged through the grass until Tuwu halts his horse. Dismounting, Tuwu crouches beside the fallen woman, now sunken in the tall grass, checking for injuries. "You have courage, I grant you that," he says. "Do you know how to ride?" Sarnai nods. After scanning the horizon, Tuwu declares, "We will set camp at the edge of the forest." He orders 3 of his men to scout for nearby settlements. That night around the fire, Sarnai removes her shoes and inspects her feet, revealing the toll the journey has taken on her. Noticing this, Tuwu hands her a water skin, allowing her to clean her feet with grass. The last scout returns and sits by the fire, reporting, "My lord, I have located a small camp of around 50 people, half a day's walk away." Looking into the fire, Tu decides, "We will head there tomorrow." From a vantage point, the riders observe the small community below. Tu turns to Sarnai and instructs, "We're going to visit this clan for trade. Don't try anything or those people might be armed, and keep silent." With that, they trot toward the camp. The people's reaction mirrors what happened in Sarnai's tribe. They are offered food after presenting a gift of a reindeer skin. During this time, Sarnai remains silent as instructed, quietly enjoying real food beside Tu. Then Tu enters into negotiations, trading 4 skins and 2 metal axes for a horse with panniers. The trade seems unfair, but Sarnai suspects the people recognize Tuwu's high status and accept the deal as a form of tribute to the mighty Ashinas. Helping Sarnai onto the newly acquired horse, Tuwu remarks, riding bareback like a true Ashina warrior, prompting laughter from his men. After tethering Sarnai's horse to Tuwu's own, they bid farewell to the tribe and continue on their journey. 2 days later, Tu halts beside a river and, dismounting his horse, declares, "Today I want to eat fish." Understanding the command, some men head toward the river with bows and spears. Turning to Sarnai, Tu says, "And you will be preparing them for us." From atop her horse, Sarnai looks toward the nearby woods and responds, "I will need ingredients." Tu nods, adding, "My man will escort you." With another 5 fish grilling on sticks above the fire, Tu exclaims, "Those are good fish," and all the men cheer in acknowledgement. Surprisingly, these comments manage to lift Sarnai's spirits slightly. The following day, the sky turns threatening with black clouds. The warm days invite thunderstorms. Seeking added protection, they find a deep forest where a small tent is set up for Sarnai. The men prefer to remain under large layers of skin to stay dry. The tent restricts Sarnai's movement, but at least she has some privacy and remains mostly dry. The storm followed by heavy rain lasts a full day and night. Riding alongside yet another river through an increasingly hilly landscape, Tu gestures towards a distant snowy mountain ridge and says to Sarnai, "Beyond that ridge lies the Khanate of the Ashinas. In 3 days we will enter our land, and in 10 I will introduce you to my father." Sarnai turns toward Tu and asks, "Why did you kidnap me?" "So you can become the mother of the future Khan, the leader of the most powerful tribe of all," Tu replies with pride. Stunned, Sarnai responds, "Did you take me from my tribe, my family, so you could offer me to your father?" "No, I am to become the next Khan, and you will give me an heir worthy of the Khanate," he declares confidently. "What makes you think I would ever agree to that? What happens if I refuse?" she challenges. "You can refuse, but understand this, Sarnai. If you choose to follow me, I will make you my second wife," Tu explains as Sarnai scoffs at his words. "If you give me a son, you will hold more power than the Khatun. You will rule beside me. However, I will have my way with you regardless. For now, you belong to me. Once I am done, you can either remain with me or I will offer you to my men. I know they find you appealing," he states gravely. Looking behind her to see if the men were oblivious to the current conversation, then turning back to Tu, Sarnai asks, "What happened? Did the Khanate run out of women, forcing you to take one from a faraway land? What about your wife? Does she agree with this arrangement?" "My current wife is barren," Tu responds without looking at Sarnai. "In the time we've been together, she miscarried twice and has been unable to conceive since. The shaman claims a great curse is upon her. She is not meant to rule. I married her for political gain on the Khan's orders. I've fulfilled my role. Our Khanate now rules these parts more grandly than ever. My wife knows she is on dangerous ground. She can either accept my taking a second wife or face an uncertain fate. The Khanate requires an heir at any cost. Tuwu pauses for a few seconds. In my camp alone, I have over 1,000 women to choose from, but I deserve the best our land can offer, someone young, beautiful, and innocent. When I saw you in your settlement, I noticed you right away. I knew then that you were the answer to my quest for a new wife. And since then, you have proven yourself to be strong, resourceful, and intelligent. Now, looking directly at Sarnai, Tuwu adds, "You are by far the best mate I could have hoped for." Sarnai remains silent for the rest of the day. As dusk settles over the warm, clear evening, Sarnai sets up her tent by herself while the men gather firewood. Nestled within, she cries over her predicament, only reaching out her hand to accept the food Tuwu left outside her tent. Since her abduction, she has never felt so alone and desperate. Constantly watched and now 10 days away by horse from her home, she doubts her ability to find her way back even if she could escape with her horse. The next morning, light peeks through gaps in the tent at an angle that tells Sarnai she has overslept. Rushing outside, she finds herself accompanied only by 2 guards. The others have left. "We are running low on food. The next stretch of our journey will be more hazardous. The rest went hunting," one of the men explains. Sarnai retrieves her water skin from her horse and returns to her tent. The remainder of the group reappears just after midday with 2 young reindeer, a testament to their skills as hunters. Typically, it takes days for Sarnai's clan to return with such a bounty. While the men busy themselves with emptying the carcasses, butchering the meat for consumption, and preparing multiple large fires for roasting and preservation, Sarnai is entrusted with an axe to clean up the skins. She willingly accepts the task to distract herself from her troubles. The efficiency of this group is remarkable, she thinks. The abundance of fresh meat greatly lifts everyone's spirits. Even Sarnai finds herself smiling at a man's joke about a past failed hunt by one of their companions. Sitting with her chin resting on her knees, lost in a daydream, the firelight illuminates the soft skin of Sarnai's exposed lower legs. Though no one openly mentions or stares, her presence does not go unnoticed. Later, Sarnai stands and walks 100 feet away from the camp into the serenity of a cool, cloudless night. As the mild wind shifts, coming from the snowy peaks, she gazes up at the stars. After a few minutes, Tuwu joins her, draping her bare skin over her shoulders. "This is the time of year when the stars cry," he remarks, admiring the sky. "This is the most beautiful sky there is." "This is where you are wrong, Tuwu," Sarnai softly counters. "How would you know that?" he inquires. "I have seen breathtaking skies beyond anything you can imagine. I have seen the most beautiful night skies imaginable over the great salty lake, shimmering with colors unknown in our own lands. I have watched green and purple veils dance across the heavens in the most extraordinary fashion. I've seen the moon and even the sun disappear. I think I've seen it all," she shares, her words leaving a deep impression. Tuwu, intrigued yet hesitant to disrupt the first intimate moment Sarnai has shared with him, watches her return to her tent in thoughtful silence. As promised, the terrain becomes more treacherous as the mountain range approaches. Sarnai observes a new dynamic. Each evening, the first task for the men when setting up camp is to assemble Sarnai's tent, leaving her only with the duty of unloading her essentials from her horse. Crossing a perilous path at the heart of the mountains, they reach a stage where the path is too narrow for 2 horses to walk side by side. Contrary to expectations, Tuwu does not merely lengthen the tether, he unties Sarnai's horse, granting her control over her own mount. At this, Sarnai caresses her horse in a soothing manner, more to calm herself than the horse, though it might appear otherwise to the others. From that point onward, the tether is no longer used, even when they reach the vast plains on the other side of the mountains. As they approach the end of their journey, the first signs of their destination appear. Large herds of domesticated animals graze the rich prairies, and more people recognize Tuwu along the way, bowing respectfully as he passes. Tuwu wasn't exaggerating about the size of his home. The settlement, calling it a village hardly does it justice, is actually composed of thousands of yurts spread across a sprawling landscape beside a large river, all arrayed around a slight hill. Atop this hill stands the most impressive yurt of all the Khan's yurt. Unloading the spoils from their successful hunt, Sarnai and the men follow Tuwu into a lavishly decorated yurt. Inside, a bustling court of over 30 people buzzes with activity, each person attending to their roles. Sarnai is instructed to stay at the back, where she quietly observes the interactions. Upon seeing his son, the Khan's face lights up. He rises from his throne with open arms to embrace Tuwu, who bows respectfully. "My son, welcome back. It is a joy to see you in good health," the Khan exclaims. "It is great to be back among my family," Tuwu responds. Two younger men, clearly Tuwu's brothers, greet him with equal warmth. The Khan, a somewhat short but robust elderly man, exudes an unexpected warmth, quite contrary to his reputation as a stern ruler. Curious, Sarnai discreetly asks one of her fellow travelers, "Where is the Khan's wife?" The man leans in and replies quietly, "The Khatun is no longer with us. We do not speak of her." Waving to his companions, Tuwu signals them to bring forth all the skins collected during their journey. "And for you, father, our grandest prize," he announces, displaying the skin of a large snow leopard. The Khan caresses the long, typical furry tail of the animal and remarks in a playful manner, "What, no coat of the Lord of the Taiga for your Khan?" "I am sorry, father. The dreaded tigers eluded us," Tuwu replies. "But I have something much more valuable to show you," he adds, gesturing for Sarnai to come forward. Sarnai steps forward with her head down, causing a murmur of whispers to ripple through the court. "This is a special guest I wish to introduce," Tuwu softly says as Sarnai bows respectfully before the Khan. The Khan gently lifts Sarnai's face by her cheeks, examining her. "This is indeed the most valuable catch of all," he declares. "What is the name of such a delicate creature?" "Sarnai," Tuwu interjects before she can speak for herself, "and I would like her to remain with us." "Then it is settled," the Khan declares. "This evening we shall have a banquet in your honor." Tuwu politely interjects, "Please, father, it has been a long journey." "Very well. The banquet will be tomorrow, but tonight we dine together, and you will tell me all about your adventures." Tuwu ushers Sarnai toward a medium-sized yurt not far from the Khan's, accompanied by her horse and 4 men. Inside, the yurt is sparsely furnished as Sarnai's belongings begin to be stored inside, along with some firewood being stacked to the side. One of the men lights a fire to warm the space. Surveying the interior, Tuwu says, "Tomorrow I will ensure this place is arranged to your liking. With that, I bid you good night. I am sure you need rest," he adds before exiting. "I am also posting 2 guards at the front for your safety. Good night." Despite its simplicity, the yurt already contains a bed, a table, a chair, and a carpet. Having grown up living with her parents and sister, Sarnai considers this simple yurt an upgrade. Sitting on her bed, she unfolds her bare skin to make the place more comfortable. As she ponders her situation with nothing else to do, hoping to rest after the long journey, the yurt becomes a flurry of activity. A number of people enter and exit rapidly, leaving furniture, blankets, beds, decorations, lamps, and more behind them. After this whirlwind of activity, 2 women lay a beautiful tablecloth and set down some warm food. Introducing themselves as Sarnai's maids, they lead her to the table to enjoy her still warm meal. Tuwu steps into one of the grandest yurts in the compound, designated for the imperial family. The interior is a testament to vast wealth, adorned with Persian carpets and bronze, Chinese furniture and silk, Indian jewelry showcased on a table, and Byzantine textiles. Nothing but the finest for Prince Tuwu's wife. "Princess Hana, it is my pleasure to see you again," Tuwu says with genuine warmth. Princess Hana, surrounded by her maids, rises from where she sits on her bed to bow respectfully. "Prince Tuwu, to see my husband return in good health is truly delightful," she responds formally, then settles back onto her seat. "How has my wife fared these last 3 months?" Tuwu inquires. "I have been occupied with court matters as expected," she replies. "And you, my lord, how was your time away?" The great hunt proceeded as expected. We returned with several skins, and thankfully no one was seriously injured. Your husband proved himself worthy of becoming the next Khan as a hunter. We are pleased with our journey, he states formally. I heard that you brought back more than just hunting trophies. What are your intentions? She asks, a hint of tension in her voice. Tuwu, sensing the underlying hostility, responds, I see gossip still travels swiftly in this land. What I will do depends on you, my princess. He pauses, then asks, Are you with child? Hana had anticipated this question, but it pains her each time. The stakes now feel even higher. No, I am not, she replies, turning her head away to conceal any tears. Very well, it is settled then. You know the rules, Tuwu states. He bows slightly and adds, Good night, Princess Hana, before leaving without Hana returning the farewell gesture. In Sarnai's yurt, the maids efficiently arrange the minimalist decorations and furniture that have been provided. The space is now equipped with 3 beds, indicating that the maids will stay with Sarnai for the foreseeable future. After finishing her dinner, a large vessel filled with water is placed on the fire. Respecting Sarnai's modesty, the maids help her out of some of her clothing and take this opportunity to assist her with basic cleaning, after which they provide a white linen garment for sleeping. Settling into her now comfortable bed, Sarnai reflects on her 25-day journey and how far she has come from her small traditional tribe to the heart of the Khanate. Now, more than ever, she feels conflicted about her own destiny.